Hi everyone, I hope everyone is good in their journey. I wanted to take some time to just give a quick update on my 18-month uh, journey into vestibular disorders and also long COVID. It has been definitely a long 18 months and it is an arduous journey, definitely not for the faint of heart. And sometimes I think about just my journey overall and like everything that has come through, and I really cannot believe that it has been 18 months. I think that when I first started with all my symptoms, that I thought there is no way that I could make it to a year or otherwise, and it just shows you how resilient and how powerful it is to continue forward and push forward. And I wanted to just kind of give an honest feedback of what's going on, of what has been happening, and it really what has been transpiring for the past 6 months. A lot has happened, and I wanted to share that with you. So, if you don't recall or want a quick summary, basically in January of 2022, I tested positive for COVID-19, and from then on, everything has come about. I was diagnosed with labyrinthitis shortly after my acute infection of COVID-19, and I will say that as of today, I do agree that my labyrinthitis symptoms have significantly reduced in terms of ear pain, ear tenderness, ear fullness, tinnitus. Um, I will say that my ears feel very clear. In terms of hearing, I hear very clear. I don't hear the muffling sound that I used to have. And so, in terms of the labyrinthitis symptoms, in terms of ear, centralized around those type of symptoms have been pretty much clear, which I thought that those were going to be really hard to overcome, and it just turns out that they are, but it was one of the first symptoms actually to resolve itself, and so I'm quite glad to see that. I am still noise sensitive, and I am still weather barometer sensitive, and so I do still use a lot of earplugs, WeatherX plugs to minimize that sensitivity. But I would say for me, most of that sensitivity comes from the vestibular migraine portion than the labyrinthitis portion itself. Although it's hard to really know, because as you know, if you're going through a vestibular journey, that it just changes day to day. But overall, I would say that the centralized ear issues have kind of been resolved, and I'm really glad to say that. What I'm still really in the recovery for is still the intermittent dizziness, and I think that's just there to stay. Honestly, I think I have a clear understanding now of what the labyrinthitis dizziness was at the very beginning, and that acute dizziness versus what I have today. And so I'll share a little bit about that. But what else is going in terms of symptoms? So shortly there after the labyrinthitis, I was also diagnosed with 3PD, which it is a disorder that basically, if you don't have any other disorder, that's what is given to you, and it's kind of almost a catch-all, to be honest, in terms of a lot of the vestibular disorder diagnoses. I will say, and I will give kind of true to what the definition of it was, that anxiety does feed the dizziness, and I would say that for sure for the first year, that is a loop that is very hard to get out of, and it is a constant battle, and you don't know, how to really hone in or what to really do to get that under control. And I honestly don't really know exactly what has really helped or aided in terms of the anxiety dizziness loop. And I feel that for sure, medication is one thing, but I think it's a multifactorial thing. I think it's a little bit of trial and error, and then I think ultimately it just comes down to time. I think after a while, your body gets better and it's in the healing recovery phase, and I think after a while you're not as scared of the dizziness, and so it gets better as time goes on. I also was diagnosed with vestibular migraines, and again, with the 3PD, that's something that no real objective exam will tell you that you have vestibular migraines. It's kind of a diagnosis that catches everything that's excluded, and so I would say 3PD and vestibular migraines kind of go in that same order. I would say that I do, however, I agree with the vestibular migraine diagnosis more than the 3PD one now, I guess, and kind of looking back on what my triggers are, and then just the consistency of the dizziness. I would say that the long COVID itself is almost in a remission state. I think that 18 months in, I can really say that I'm probably 80 to 90% recovered in terms of, all my symptoms that I was in, where I was. Now, I think in a prior video I did state that maybe I was 90 to 95%. And I think as your body recuperates and as you kind of journey to just healing and the new normal that your body has to deal with, I think I look back now and I realize how sick I was before and how far I've come, and then the percentage kind of keeps changing, and I think that's why one of the reasons why I don't really like to give percentages on where I'm at is because it changes. It really does. And it's a day-to-day thing, and it's not a linear progression. And I think that is the most hard and challenging thing to accept. It is that recovery is not linear at all. So overall, I'm doing quite well, but I would say I'm not 100% healed, and I'm not 100% recovered. I will say that I can tell a huge difference of where I was and where I am. I can tell you that my symptoms as of today do not interfere with my day-to-day activities in terms of complete abandoning of those activities. Like, I will be able to set forth a schedule for the day, and I would be able to finish most, if not all, of my activities planned for the day. And that means my worst days, I might be a little slow in getting all those things done, but nonetheless they will be completed, which says a lot of how far I've come in terms of recovery. In the very early days, one task would take me the whole day, and one task would probably be getting ready, for the day, and I would be done. I would be from, waking up from my bed and then going to a couch and then staying there all day and then going back to bed at the end of the day. And I think that has definitely been an uplifting in terms of spirits of how far I've come. I have a normal day-to-day activity schedule. I'm back to full-time working. I've been working for the past year. I am back to volunteering. I've been volunteering now for the past 6 months. There is no activity except for very few that this disorder has limited me on. I will say now though, I am not back to what normal would look like for me, because I do still get tired. I don't get fatigued in terms of the fatigue that I would consider in the early stages of long COVID, like that just overwhelming fatigue that you can't do anything. I get tired more easily now, but I can, sit down and recover and then go forth again. I will say that that has been a shift here in the last probably 4 to 6 months of like, wow, I am more energetic throughout the day. I don't need as many rests or breaks throughout my day to be able to do what I need to do and what I need to get done. I will say if I do have a lot of kind of emotional or draining mental days in terms of whether it be analyzing something at work or maybe something happened to me personally or any kind of stressors that are on within just normal day life, I will say that I can tell my body does need a little bit more recovery time. For example, I just came back from vacation. I had a very nice vacation to go to, and I was able to do everything I wanted to do during the vacation time. But now coming back from it, I can definitely feel like my body needs a lot more rest, and I'm sore here and there, but nothing compared to what I was even a year ago, which I'm so thankful. And I really do say my grateful and thankfulness prayers every day, just this gratefulness of living again, and just being able to just take on the day without really hardly ever worrying about not being able to go through it. So that's kind of where I am. I will say I don't know if holistically this is where I wanted to be, I guess 6 months ago, but at the same time I think that I'm looking at where I was 6 months ago and I'm like, I'm so glad that I am where I am. And the progressive recovery is so slow. I think I've talked about this before, but it's just like every day it seems like you're not getting better, but then you look back and you're like, oh wow, I wasn't able to do all of this 6 months ago, and now I am doing that. So to summarize, I guess what I'm still dealing with is truly, most of it is intermittent dizziness. It is intermittent, as the word says. It comes and goes. There are some days where I'm very, very dizzy in terms of what I think very dizzy is now. My very dizzy now is not the very dizzy that I was a year ago. I can honestly say that. If I was gonna put it on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being completely dizzy, you cannot move, bedbound, I would say my intermittent dizziness on a very bad day is probably a 4.5, and it may get to like a 4.8. I wouldn't say it gets to a 5, honestly, because once I get to like a 4.5, I start getting a little bit sick, and I just feel sick, and so I take precautionary medicine to break it, and so I know like how to approach it now, and so I thankfully, knock on wood, I haven't had like a horrible dizzy days. Now I could probably say for the last 8 months, 6 to 8 months, haven't had any issues in terms of bed bound, completely unable to move dizziness. It is mostly very head, top heavy, migraine, headache type visual dizziness, and it's very intermittent. I know now that a lot of that intermittent dizziness is really interwoven with my period and the period cycle, and I can tell exactly which days I'm going to be probably more dizzy and more sick than others. But I will say that I have days where I am not dizzy at all. I can wake up and can be completely normal. I have little to no symptoms whatsoever. I get up, I start my day, and honestly, sometimes I don't really even think about it. And then it's not until, like, hours later, and then you're like, oh, I guess I have a good day today. And those days are becoming more and more as the norm. And I think that makes the bad days, quote unquote, harder, honestly, because your body gets used to what normal is, and then you go back to like a level of dizziness, and your body kind of gets a little anxious and a little scared, and it gets to like, oh, what is this new sensation? So I will say, before, hard days were hard, but for some reason now, in where I am, hard days are really hard, because I think it just takes back like where you are, and you go back a little bit into different levels, and mentally and emotionally it just takes a little bit of toll. However, those hard days are very far and few in between, and so it makes it a much more easy challenge than before, where it was like every day was a hard day, and there was literally no light at the end of the tunnel, and you kind of felt that desperation, and you felt like that's the end, and this is the end of my life, and I'm not gonna ever function as I would normally. I think I still have those days. I think those hard days typically come, maybe once or twice a month. But then it's only coming once a month, when before it was every day. And so you have to keep it in perspective, and I think that's one of the hardest things I'm struggling with now. I will say depression and anxiety are completely under control, and so I don't have any of those type of issues anymore. I definitely can contribute medication to a facet of the recovery. Right now, I am on nortriptyline, I am on naratriptan, I am on metoprolol, and so that combination has really been a game changer for me. Literally has changed my life in terms of the discovery of which dose to do, when to do it. And I'm still kind of going back and forth on what my next pharmaceutical would be to help me and aid me to a complete recovery, because I really truly believe that I can get there to 100%, but that's where a little bit of fear comes in terms of changing up what has already been working. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, but it's still broke, so we'll try to fix it. VRT still continues to be my day-to-day. In fact, you can kind of tell my background. Those are and I apologize if for any of you that causes some visual issues. But those I would highly recommend. Actually, I got those on Amazon, and being able to see those and being able to track all my VRT with such colorful and very busy patterns. Now I can totally look at them and not be dizzy, not have any issues whatsoever, as opposed to 6 months ago. That would be a different story. I am still struggling with neck pain, although it's very intermittent as well. I think I've seen a lot of providers with the neck issues, and I will say that I have had mixed results on what's worked and what didn't work with my neck pain, and I will say that the best thing that really has helped me, which is very inexpensive and doesn't really make a whole lot of difference, but it did to me for some reason, was the Tiger Balm, or kind of Biofreeze Balm, and just applying it every day to my neck and like just massaging it and like having that soft tissue work just myself. I mean, I typically at the very beginning I would have practitioners work on my neck, and actually made everything worse. What I found is gentle massages every night actually made a better recovery, and just I saw like a huge lift in pain relief than any of the other modalities that I did. I will say that trigger point injections, along with dry needling at the very beginning, did aid a lot, and I think I shared that with you all in terms of that relief. But I haven't had trigger point injections in the last 6 months, so, and I've been pretty good. I think as the dizziness subsides, the other symptoms subside too. And I've had a lot of practitioners tell me, oh, it's because you don't have a neck lordosis, and it's because you have a straight neck. And I actually found x-rays of myself, neck x-rays of myself 12 years ago, and I still didn't have a lordosis, and I didn't have any vestibular issues then. Now, I guess you could argue that was the beginning of what potentially could happen, but honestly, I don't think so. I think the neck pain, it really stems from a dysregulated vestibular system, and your body knows that, and the neck is just another symptom added to all of that. I do still get migraines, but other than that, everything's pretty much under control, and I'm living life, you guys. I just can't believe I am, but I am. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of layer of hope, a little light in your day, and I hope your journey has been going well. I'll come back later, maybe in a 2-year mark, and kind of share with you where I am now, and I'll talk a little bit about in another video about what I've been doing in the past 6 months in terms of modalities and any other type of relief that I've kind of seen that has helped. Hope everybody has a great day. Blessings all.